Okay, today we're doing a little video of replacing a CV joint in the front of a BMW X3. This BMW, I replaced a wheel bearing a while ago, and I didn't replace the CV joint, so maybe I should have. I don't know, the wheel bearing was bad, but I did notice some weird behavior, some weird vibration from this. And I guess this video is more about symptoms, the stuff you hear, than actually changing the CV joint. Changing the CV joint shouldn't be a big deal. We'll go through it, but the weird vibrations I was getting from this is just not very typical of a CV joint. Usually a CV joint going bad, you know, you'll hear it clicking when you take a left turn, take a right turn, whatever. I wasn't hearing any of that. What I would hear though was a rumbling noise. Then it would go away when you let off the gas, so it seemed just like a wheel bearing. I knew I replaced a wheel bearing, but then it got a little bit worse, and the rumbling noise didn't go away when you let off the gas. When you're going 70, it'd make a pretty good rumbling noise, you know, highway speeds. And now it's before, you know, right now before I'm taking it apart, it's sort of like at low speed, it sort of shakes the steering wheel a little bit. So I think the CV joint actually has a little bit of a play in it. Not bad enough to start clicking yet, but I notice it. Maybe I just am very sensitive to it. I don't know, but. Anyway, some weird symptoms I've seen with the CV joint. So let's put the car up on jacks, put it on a safety stand, and tear it apart. Let's get at it. So here's a new CV joint. This is the nut that we're going to be taking off, and it's a funny little nut. It's a 12-point nut, and I mentioned that because the socket you use to take it off is 36 millimeter. But again, you want a 12-point socket, because that fits perfectly with that nut. Anything else, and I think you're asking for trouble. So these aren't the most common sockets in the world, but you know, you can get them. I think I got this at Advanced Auto or something. But anyway, you got to get the right socket, or you're just going to be hating life if it doesn't come off. So 36 millimeter, 12-point, half-inch impact gun. We'll get the thing off. Let's do it. So I got the nut off. It wasn't too big of a deal. I just had to, you know, you get the bent over tabs, you got to get them out of the way with a chisel. So you can see I sort of forced the CV joint back a little bit just to break it loose. So what we're going to do is take the brake caliper off. It doesn't hurt. And we're going to pop the tie rod end here. There's a little tie rod. We should be able to, let's see if I can get it out of here. You should be able to loosen the nut up and use a fork or something to pop that tie rod end off there, and then we can swing the thing to the left, and that CV joint should pop out the back side of that hub there. So let me get at it a little bit, and what we'll do with this brake is we'll hang it somewhere. You don't really let them rest on the hose. The hose will get cracked or whatever, and that's not good for anything. So we'll hang it either on those holes back here you see, or up on the spring. I'll get a piece of wire. That way it's out of the way. So let's proceed a little further, see what happens. Just one thing to review real quick. I think I've showed this before. To get these little spring clips off in the BMWs, a lot of people work at it pretty hard. If you just get a screwdriver in there between the, you know, the hunk of metal there, the rotor and the clip, you'll be able to push that thing backwards. And if I had two hands, I'd pop it right out. But that thing will pop right out of there now. So it's not that hard to get the things out. And you probably find that getting them in is pretty easy anyway. So just wanted to touch on that for a second. Okay, I changed my mind a little bit. I was going to take the tie rod end off, and I decided that I must have loaned somebody my tie rod puller. So we're not going to do it that way. You know, all this mechanic stuff, you got to be able to do workarounds, right? So anyway, I take this bolt off right here. The light's on it. 18 millimeter nut. It's got a bolt side too. You always want to loosen from the nut side. We went through that a couple times. You know, when you're loosening from the head side, you got all that friction of the bolt. So you just want to loosen from here. And what's going to happen is this whole thing will drop down. The strut's already at its longest because it's on jack stands. And I'll put my jack under the disc. And anyway, this thing will fall right down, come right out. And we'll have all kinds of room to pull that CV joint out of the hub here. So let me loosen this up, and we'll get some more video going. Okay, now you can see that I I let the steering knuckle come down, and what I did, I bumped up against it with a piece of aluminum with a hammer, and that forced this, you know, the diameter of the yoke here to come off the diameter here. So I just put it down. It's sitting on the jack right now, and I turned the wheel to the right, and that gave me enough room, since we took the brake caliper off. That gave me enough room to get this CV joint out. You can see it's loose hanging here, so we're pretty good to go. Now we got to do is you got to get a screwdriver, a pry bar, and there's just a clip that holds this thing in there. It's pretty simple, really. Once you get done fighting from this side, you know, getting the nut off, and the splines usually get a little bit rotted. You got to oil them up, you know, lube them up a little bit penetrating fluid. But once you get to that side, it pops out pretty easily. So I got to climb under the car, and at the same time I'll check the fluid in there. You can see there's a little hole. That's your fill hole right there for the front differential. I'll just check it to make sure there's fluid in it. I did check it prior this year. The drain was, you had to remove the pan, if I'm not mistaken. I just took the pan, rotated it out of the way to drain the front diff. But you know, it's up on jacks. I'm in the zip code, so I'll make sure there's fluid in there. I'm sure there is, but it doesn't hurt to check. So let me get under the car and try to pop this pig out. Okay, I'm under the car here, and I gotta pop this off. Gotta get a screwdriver between that housing and the differential. So I need to take this aluminum pan out of the way. So you'll see there's 4 bolts, 2 I took off. That bolt there, I'll leave in, I'll loosen it up, and I'll just try to spin the pan out of the way. You know, you just got to get the front end out of the way. So I'll take this bolt out now. But there's these little plastic things you got to fiddle with, and the quickest way, easiest way I've seen with that is, you know, take a side cutter and grab underneath it. You don't want to cut them. You just you pull them off. So you pull them out. What they are, they're a little plastic rivet. So what that's doing, that's holding this front cover to the piece of aluminum there. So let me see if I can do this. And you should be able to take these out and reuse them. So we'll see. You can see I popped it out. So pull that out, and like I say, take 3 of the bolts out and just loosen the back corner one, and you'll be able to swing this thing out of the way. So let me get to it. So here's an unfortunate close-up. I'm laying on the ground. I don't have a lift, so. But here's a close-up of where we got to get the screwdriver. Hold on a second. Just dropped the light. Screwdriver has to go right in this area here. I should say pry bar. I got a really fat screwdriver, so you should be able to see that pretty clearly. Maybe, I don't know. There you go. So you can even see it wiggling there. So we'll get a pry bar in there or something, and we'll pop that right off. So now another thing down here, since we're in the right zip code, this is your drain for your differential. So I mentioned before that I changed the differential fluid, and it's pretty oily. So I think I got a leak up top from motor oil. Typical. So I know I got a valve cover gasket leak, and that's on a list of things to do, but the CV joint came first, so it's going in first. So let me get something behind there and pop that thing off. Well, I popped the CV joint out with that big screwdriver. It didn't take much, as I said. And you can see some fluid coming out of there, so I know it's got fluid in it. Everything looks pretty good, so let's do. I got the thing jacked up at a little bit of an angle, and you know, I guess the fill port is just maybe a skosh higher than that, so that's probably why it's dripping out. But I'm going to do a quick review. We'll look at the old CV joint compared to the new, make sure what we got is good to go, and we'll pop it back in there and stop that from dripping out of the way. So hold on a second. Let's see, here's the new CV joint. Here's the old one. They look about the same. Looks like it should go in without a problem. This has the clip already on it. This has the clip. It came out, of course. So what we'll do, we'll put a little bit of lube on this surface here. where that seal goes. That way it slips on there. I might even get some waterproof grease, I guess, and put on there. But that's it. So this is and the only thing I can see is this is getting pretty sloppy. I mean, we're not hearing clatter, but this is noticeably stiffer. You know, it doesn't have much end play like this one does. This has a lot of end play. I think it's just in the beginning of stages of going bad, and I'm just I don't know, for some reason I hear it. It bugs me. So, you know, one of these CV joints is 65 bucks off the internet, eBay. I mean, why not replace it, right? I guess I should have did it when I did the bearing to begin with. So live and learn. So let me get this set up to put it back in. So we got the thing back in there, and you know, there's a little clip back here, so you feel for the splines. You get the thing in place, and what I do at the end of this, I take my I got a large dead blow hammer, you know, a 4-pounder I think it is, or a 3-pounder, and yeah, 4 pounds, and I just tap on the end of the shaft, give a little bit of a violence to get it in there, and you'll feel it snap right in place. So I'm going to button it back up. Now when you, and I'll go through this probably again, when you put the nut on there, these front ends, they take quite a bit of torque. You're torquing it up in the 300 foot-pound range, so get the right torque wrench. I got one, but they're big, let me tell you. You don't want to, that's one thing that's strange. A lot of front wheel bearings, you know, they don't torque anywhere near that, so I'm not sure if it's why BMW does it, but that's what they call out. I think it's 308 foot-pounds or something like that, or anyway, so be sure if you do this job to have the right torque wrench. So let me button this back up a little bit. So I straightened the wheel back up, okay, and I sort of just pushed it, you know, pushed on the hub or whatever, and you'll get that shaft. You can clean it up a little bit too, it doesn't hurt. If it's been on there a while, you want to hit it with some Scotch-Brite, you know, clean this surface up. You know, less muck on there, the easier it's going to be to get back together. So I'll be able to put this in position. Just remember, on the back side of this strut, there's a little pin, and that's got to line up with the slot back there. So once you get it started, you'll probably have to twist either the strut, yeah, you have to twist the strut to get that thing in the slot. And the back side here, in the casting, there's a slot in the casting, it has to receive into there. You'll see what I'm talking about if you take it apart, or once you get it going back together, because you notice this won't seat deep enough, and that pin will be, you know, it'll be sitting on top. So you just got to rotate the strut a little bit, then it'll pop in. So I'll put a little force underneath it once I get it close with my jack, and that'll pick this thing and pop it right in position. Shouldn't be a big deal. So, and with the jack, just be cognizant. You want to be pushing on the rotor. You don't want to be pushing on that shield there. That's the steel shield. You'll bend it all up. So, okay. Let me get this a little bit closer. Now I got the strut back in the bore there. So when you're doing this, when you're all said and done, you know, make sure that the strut is in fully seated. What you'll do, you'll feel underneath here on the bottom side of the bore, and it's pretty much flush on the back side. You know, worst case, if it gets a little jammed in there, you pop it back out and start over. You'll feel it. Just wiggle it around when you start, and you'll find it'll find its way. Then you know, jack it up like I'm doing here, just to give you, a little help picking up this hub assembly. And throw the bolt back in there, torque it up. We're going to have to sneak this through here a little bit more. Again, it was a little bit rotted, so a little bit of rust going in the old bore, so I'm going to have to tap it to get it back in place. Not a big deal. Then I'll pretty much be done with this thing. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Again, it was more about the symptoms I've been seeing with the rear or the front strut than actually replacing it, because I think I've touched on replacing CV joints. Sorry, I've touched on replacing CV joints before. They're all about the same. For the fronts of the BMW. This is an X3, so what it's worth, it's what the heck, look at the video, is specific for your car. You can't disagree with that. So let me button it up. Hope you had a good view here. Thank you. Bye.